All right, guys, we have our 2024 preview of the Green Bay Packers, over under 9.5 for their season win total. Lots of expectations here, so let's jump right on into it. Head coach LaFleur, he stays. I like LaFleur. I think he's a good coach. I thought during his Aaron Rodgers years, he was kind of holding things back, or maybe not running the offense he really wanted to run because Aaron Rodgers was there. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is an excellent quarterback, and I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers really held him back, but I think LaFleur or anybody with Aaron Rodgers tends to work their way into what Aaron Rodgers wants to do, and now LaFleur kind of had his reins taken away and got to be free a little bit last year, and you saw a really good burst from the offense. So I like LaFleur. Expect him to keep on rolling in the right direction. Jeff Hafley comes in at DC. We'll talk a little bit more as we go by, but that may just be addition by subtraction with Joe Barry. Nobody could be a DC, and maybe that might be a jump there. Really dislike Joe Barry, but yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. But let's jump into the offense. Jordan Love, the quarterback here. I kind of want to see a little bit more sample size with Jordan Love. I just want that sample size to be a little bit bigger. He had a really, really bad start, and obviously he grew into it in the regular season as it kind of went along, but obviously the sample size is still a little bit small, especially with how bad he was at the beginning and how good he was toward the end. So I think he's somewhere in the middle. I'm not sure if his average is what he showed in the playoffs last year or anything like that. So I kind of want to see a little bit more from him. We'll see it this year, obviously, and at the end of the year, I think I'll have a more firm take of Jordan Love. I don't think he's bad as his. I don't think he's as bad as his first 8 games. I don't think he's as good as his last 10. So, I believe he's somewhere in the middle. So we'll see as we go forward. Sean Clifford, the backup. Never been a Sean Clifford guy, but more power to him as he is the backup here. But if Jordan Love does go down, I don't expect Clifford to be someone who can carry this team to the playoffs or anything like that. Running back, Josh Jacobs comes in. Aaron Jones goes out. Similar like-for-like swap. I actually like Aaron Jones a little bit more when they're healthy, but he wasn't super healthy toward the end of last season, or really for decent part of last season. Josh Jacobs comes in. He's younger, like-for-like. In a year or two, he'd be the better back anyway. He's still younger, so a decent swap. Maybe not super necessary in terms of squad building for me, but should be like-for-like kind of stuff. No jump, no decline there. And then A.J. Dillon still on this team, which is kind of weird to me, but, I expect Josh Jacobs to be the workhorse anyway. Wide receiver room. This is where it gets a little bit interesting for me. Christian Watson comes in. You expect him or hope for him to be healthy. There's some funny things going around with his hamstring and stuff like that, but they may have found a solution to that, which is interesting. So hopefully he can stay healthy. And then you get Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks. I actually think Dontavion Wicks is going to be the number 2 in this offense at some stage here. I actually think he's a better wide receiver than Romeo Doubs. Jaden Reed out of the slot, and they're going to play their set of 4, often anyway. Outside of that, not too much depth. But as I said, if I were a betting person, which I am, I think Dontavion Wicks will be the number 2 with Christian Watson firmly about halfway through the season. So we'll see there. I don't necessarily expect these guys to steal reps from one another, if I want to say it like that. They're all going to get their reps. They're going to be 4 wide receiver sets, that kind of stuff. So they're all going to get their reps. I think Wicks is the better wide receiver, and I think the Packers will learn that Wicks is the better wide receiver. Excuse my cat for making noises. Tight end room. Luke Musgrave, really good, really young. You want him to get better. You think he's going to get better as he kind of goes through. Tucker Kraft is decent. I think he should be ready for the beginning of the season. So a really good tight end room as well. So the weapons here are good, young, should get better, along with the running back and quarterback. So it's an interesting group because there's plenty of room to grow. You expect a little bit of growth. They're all very young and should continue to grow. So, it's interesting. And then we can jump into the final part, the offensive line. This is very similar to what it was last year. Rookie Jordan Morgan comes in for John Runyon, and then that's kind of it. Everything else stays the same. Rasheed Walker was okay at left tackle. He was forced to come in for Bakhtiari. Last year, he was okay, but plenty of room to improve, but he's a very young player, so we'll see if he can improve. I've heard rumblings that Bakhtiari may come back. He's obviously excellent when he's fit for the 3 games he's fit a year, but guess another piece if nobody picks him up. But it's a decent line, nothing crazy, nothing great, and it should be very similar going forward. As for the defense, as we talked about, Jeff Heffley comes in, Joe Barry leaves. Joe Barry was really bad. The defense it's going to be 2 completely different defenses here. Joe Barry kind of just sat off, let teams hit him underneath a ton, and they don't have the linebackers, they don't have the pass rushers to kind of cause problems there. So constantly it was just short pass, killed them all the way down the field, and there was no stopping it. Jeff Heffley is going to run a more aggressive defense, more up in the box kind of defense, going to get in your face kind of defense. So it's going to be different, but I believe they have the personnel to kind of do that in the secondary at least. So let's take a look at the D-line. Not too bad. Rashawn Gary took a bit of a step back last year, even after he came back healthy. So maybe an off season of him being okay and getting back up running, really, he'll take another step forward, kind of get him back to 2022. Kenny Clark, Preston Smith are okay. They're solid in the middle. Not too bad. It's outside of that, it's not great. Van Ness, Wyatt, Brooks, they're all very young, but they need to step up a lot more than what they were. Wyatt is not great at all. Quay Walker, just the players from that draft in general haven't been great. Van Ness was not great in his limited snaps. So you want all of them to take a step forward, and then this D-line can really take a step. If Rashawn Gary gets back to his normal form, if the younger players take that step, then you have a really nice D-line here. Other than that, it's kind of just solid. Then we have the linebacker room. Not good. Quay Walker, we were talking about, just hasn't been good. The other is going to be a rookie here. Edgerrin Cooper is probably going to start next to Quay Walker. This could be a potentially really, really bad linebacker group, especially if none of those two come in. Like if Cooper doesn't come in like NFL ready, and it's tough to come in NFL ready there, and Quay Walker just continues to be not good, this can be a very bad linebacker room. Secondary is good though. Interesting, top heavy. Jair is obviously great, but he was really not super healthy last year. He only played 7 games, had that weird thing where he went out as a captain and got suspended for a game too. And next to him, Stokes is okay, needs a step forward. Nixon, not too bad at nickel. So it's top heavy there again. Jair needs to be healthy, and Jair needs to be good, really, especially with this new defense where he's going to be on islands a bit. So he's going to, I'm not saying he's not capable of being on islands, but he is going to be on islands. So he needs to be fit and good. As for the safety room, pretty much new. Xavier McKinney comes in, an excellent signing. He's been one of the best safeties in the league for a long time. As a Giants fan, I know all about that. And then Bullard comes in, rookie, hoping that can start in. And safety is one of those positions where you can really come in and, step in right away. So you expect the safety room to be good. And as I said again, top-heavy safety group as well. So top-heavy secondary, depth is not great. You got like Kalen King, Valentine there, a corner. So it's okay. You want Stokes to play well, Jair to be healthy, Xavier McKinney, and to be healthy there, and you got the makings of a good secondary, but you miss one here, like McKinney goes down or Jair misses another 8 games. It could be a bit of a struggle with how this defense is going to be run. So a step up just in general with Joe Barry leaving, coordinators step up, but there are spots here where it's very, very fragile. So I worry a little bit about the defense. As for the schedule, this is where things kind of get a little weird, because my initial reading is under. This team went 9-8 and then won 2 playoff games won a playoff game convincingly, and then was in a game where they really should have beaten San Francisco. But also, they're not just the makeup of those 2 games. They're the makeup of, their whole year, and the beginning was bad and they kind of grew into it, as we said. But also this team needed to win their last game to go 9-8 and sneak into the playoffs too. So, I wanted to go under. 9.5 is not a number I wanted to get. 10.5, I definitely would have played it under. Or I most likely would have played it under. But this schedule also lines up really well for them to kind of just ease their way back into the season. You get the Eagles to start in Brazil, which is not easy, obviously. The Indianapolis at home, at Tennessee, home to Minnesota. So it's a nice soft landing after they come back from that weird game against Philadelphia. Then at the Rams, then home to Arizona, both winnable. Home to Houston, winnable. At Jacksonville, home to Detroit, winnable. So these games are all winnable. And they need to be winnable because the stretch after the bye is really, really difficult. At Chicago, home to San Francisco, home to Miami, at Detroit, at Seattle. That's a really tough stretch, and Detroit was the one before the bye. Or, I mean, you can even go before the bye. Houston, at Jacksonville, Detroit, bye, at Chicago, San Francisco, Miami, at Detroit, at Seattle. So it's a really, really, really tough middle of the season stretch. And then they end with New Orleans, at Minnesota, and then home to Chicago. They can win those last 3 games there. So I didn't want to go under. I don't want to go over. In general, I don't want to go over. I think there are more tails to this team being just outside the playoffs than there are more tails to it being, a division winner kind of thing. So I didn't want to play any of those. So we have our 3 bets here, which will have to do with the offense. Jordan Love, more passing yards than Aaron Rodgers at -135. This is a $1 bet. In 2022, last time Aaron Rodgers was here in Green Bay, he was 38, right? And he threw for less than what Jordan Love threw for last year. And he's at the Jets now, and I expect them to run the ball a lot more in New York. I expect their defense to be really good. I expect them to run the ball and kill games quickly. As for this team, this could be a team where, as we said, the defense really isn't good, and they have to throw a lot to stay in games. And there are a lot of bad secondaries on this list that they can really get at. Los Angeles, Arizona, Minnesota, potentially. Detroit twice. As we said, Minnesota twice. New Orleans. So there are some teams here where they're going to be able to throw the ball. He outthrew Rodgers last year compared to Rodgers' last really full season healthy. And I expect the Jets to run the ball quite a bit. So, and I don't see any reason why the Packers should be throwing less than they were last year, unless the defense really comes on and they're killing teams. So we love that one. Jordan Love, more passing yards than Aaron Rodgers. At -135. Then we have 2 plays for Dontavion Wicks. I told you I'm up on Wicks. I think he's the number 2 at some stage here, so we're going to take some shots on Wicks. 5+ TDs at +225. That is a 50-cent bet for us. And then 7+ TDs at +1,000. That is a 10-cent bet for us. He wasn't he was involved last year, obviously. He ran 300 routes, played 500 snaps, but he only caught 4 TDs. There's a potential here where he's catching way more, where he's way more involved in the offense, and we're talking 1 more TD than last year for someone I think could be way more involved at +225, so we're going to have a shot there. So those are our plays. That is our preview for the Green Bay Packers for 2024.